Hello and welcome to today's webinar on Endpoint Security, Navigating a Future Beyond Trust. I am Kanchi Shah, General Manager for Continent Strategy and Strategy, and it's a pleasure to welcome you all on behalf of Dell Technologies, Intel, Microsoft, and Stratton. Ladies and gentlemen, in a global enterprise scenario that is perennially vulnerable to threats and attacks, organizations are realizing that the need of the hour is for solutions that provide robust automated threat prevention, detection, and response capabilities. Modern work demands an equally modern approach to protecting the endpoint and the end user. Solutions that ensure AI/ML infused threat detection and prevention are clear mandates. Organizations have since shifted from traditional mindsets of threat prevention to active threat detection and rapid preemptive response. CIOs and IT leaders realize that in order to focus on more strategic business objectives, solutions that enable inbuilt comprehensive threat management will allow them to free up precious time while rapidly scaling IT infrastructure with enhanced features that offer competitive advantage. Through today's webinar, we intend to discuss the importance of endpoint security to realize the potential of data capture. We will also discuss the critical pillars of endpoint security that enable flexibility and freedom, ensuring security for different kinds of employees. Through the discussions, we will also uncover the challenges of enabling comprehensive security in the backdrop of remote working and gig economies, and how protecting and securing data can encourage productivity. With that, let's begin with our first discussion today. I'd like to welcome Mr. Vineet Sinha, Director Cybersecurity SME Asia Pacific for Mastercard, Mr. Amrish Singh, CISO for Godrej and Royal, and Mr. Arjun Vishwanathan, Chief Knowledge Officer for Strategy, who will be moderating this conversation. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us. And with that, I'd now like to hand it over to Arjun.
Hello and welcome. Welcome to everybody here in this lovely audience that's joined us today. And today I've got two very, very eminent friends from industry who are stalwarts in the space of technology and information security of their own right to talk about matters pertaining to the whole concept around how the truth really is the trusted devices enable trusted data. And increasingly in a global enterprise scenario that is perennially and potentially vulnerable to threats and attacks, organizations are realizing the need for robust and comprehensive solutions that will protect the humble sentinel called the endpoint. And joining me, Vineet, Ambrish, welcome. Delighted to have you with us. Vineet, I'm going to jump into this directly, given the time that we have. Is the whole concept of endpoint security. Do you feel increasingly that this is one particular aspect of information security and the overall architecture that perhaps requires a lot more thought, considering that the endpoint is perhaps in many ways the first point of defense?
Oh, absolutely, Arjun. I think you have just started on a very, very important point. I think as an organization, we all have realized that post-pandemic, we have got into a world of hybrid, right? And I think, and then over these 2 years, it's not just 2 years from a technology terms, it's a decade, right? It's a decade of evolution that has happened for most of us. And now, when we are talking about endpoints, certainly they are the ones through which any system, any network across the organization, or not only the organization, even our suppliers,
Indeed.
systems, yes, everything is getting connected today. And if in case there is one vulnerable point, just one vulnerable point in any of these, right? Across so many systems which are getting connected across your internet, across your network. You even at times organization still is struggling as to what all are those systems that are getting connected, right? And
Indeed.
it's the biggest challenge for most of the cybersecurity or the infosec professionals across the industry that how do we even discover as to what is getting connected in our system. Now, let's say if in case, and I think we have seen a lot of these examples, and then some of the recent ones, which are very, very pertinent in the industry, and everybody is talking about. Uh, People were talking about legacy systems that were being used right now. Just one system can cause an havoc
I
to
know.
compare to many of these systems which are already there connected to your infrastructure and are still outdated or are been still at a level which should have been like 10 years back. I think obviously you are giving all reasons for an attacker to really get inside your organization. Now, I think that's where the starting point is. Since we are getting connected to so many different technology and systems across the organization and to the suppliers and to all know what all that we can even talk about. But if in case we are even allowing that happen, right, is your entry point to the particular system or
No, I
infrastructure.
couldn't agree more with you. Vinith, with your permission, I'm just going to take that to Ambrish. Ambrish, getting you in into this, what's clearly started off as a fascinating conversation. In increasingly the hybrid work kind of a scenario that exists today, and such as is expected to exist even in the many more years to come. Uh, as an IT information security professional, how much does the concept of an endpoint in a remote working, in a cafe, at my house, under the tree, wherever, how much does that bother you and worry you?
Yeah, so I totally agree what Vinith said, right?
Indeed.
Uh, uh, See, we have been struggling to maintain uh, uh, standards, maintain the standards of the endpoint, what we were controlling. Okay. The in hybrid setup where we are opening up, right? We saw during pandemic, people are allowed to work from their own assets, bring your own device concept due to the open culture, right? So many partners are accessing your applications in network from their own devices.
True.
You open the whole Pandora boxes of VPN to the multiple partners and you don't have any control over their devices, right? So
Absolutely.
look at the pre-pandemic, we had our own problems where we had Vinith was talking about legacy application operating system because there are certain applications that not work on certain operating system, right? And you're struggling to manage the vulnerability, existing vulnerability. However, you are struggling here, and thereafter the pandemic, you open the entire whole new ecosystem, right? Where you don't have any control. So one is the control versus uncontrollable. How to manage a strike a balance? It has become another very, very challenging task for the infosec professionals. And the third party security is another gray area. We have been struggling, and now it has gone up multifold. Okay.
I
Yeah.
absolutely agree.
Yeah.
Vinith, which is why I need to therefore come and bring this back to you, which is that as you observe and as you confront a very evolving, sophisticated threat landscape that's only expanding every minute, perhaps, if not every second, how do technology professionals such as yourselves and for an emerging generation of information security and IT professionals, how do they turn this challenge on its head to be able to truly protect the organization and its strategic assets, which is data, which is IP, which is existential in nature?
So I think Arjun, you have a very, very valid point. I think given the kind of infrastructure that we have created,
Yeah,
so at the time of pandemic, it was more of an evolution journey, right? But that has led to a creation of a havoc now, right? We
indeed.
use the word havoc today. So there are so many different set of endpoints which are there sitting in the organization. There are so many different types of mobility connectivity that you are establishing, the mobile devices that are you are allowing to connect to the system infrastructure. Now, it's very important as an organization that you should be understanding what is the asset that you are getting connected to as an
Absolutely.
organization. And I think that's the key to success. Without understanding the set of assets which are getting connected to your organization infrastructure, with I think it is going to be a massive problem for any organization to really manage. Now, to undertake some of those challenges, you have to identify the device entry point, number one. Number two, you have to identify the set of inventories across your organization. Number three is that you have to allow only those legitimate devices which are allowed by your organization or have a kind of a golden image which has been deployed by the organization are only allowed to be connected to your organization infrastructure. Now, there are various set of technologies and frameworks that are there existing in the industry. I think it's too early to talk about those, but I think these are primarily the three aspects what I see as a professional that should be looked into before you actually even think about how you have to make your environment more robust.
Brilliant. Actually, that's a very important point you brought out because Ambrish, I'm bringing that to you. Therefore, now that we've established the fact that the endpoint is a very vulnerable asset, uh, how and what is your advice and guidance to a new emerging generation of information security practitioners and leaders on how to build endpoint security into the mainstream of their overall cyber security and cyber resilience strategies?
Yeah, so I think Vinith brought out the core elements of, what is connecting to you, right? So if you divide the assets which are connecting to your network, divided into two parts. The assets which you have control, you have visibility, what you can do. The assets which are uncontrolled, you cannot control,
Indeed.
right? Talk about assets, endpoint, laptop, desktop, which are controlled by, given by the organizations. You have a control, you can do hardening, you can apply bunch of controls. Like we were talking about, there are various technology which can ensure that your organization asset can connect to your network. First thing. Second thing, whatever the asset is connected to your network, if you are working on a philosophy of zero trust,
Hmm,
right?
hmm.
You know that what you are going to protect.
Yes.
Assume that whatever the asset is coming through, it is vulnerable, correct? It has been existing and it is going to be vulnerable because we are always chasing there's a race, right? We are always dragging behind. So assume that the endpoint which is going to connect to a network is vulnerable. How you will protect your network and applications and whatever the database, etc. you have to have that strategy in mind. And then you plan your protection and detection, response, recovery strategy accordingly. And you must have a strong belief that, see, whatever the protective technology you're going to deploy, right? Things may go wrong. But if you deployed the technology across if we talk about 5 pillars of NIST cybersecurity framework, even if things go wrong, you will be able to come back to normalcy as quickly as possible. And you are able to respond and recover to the incident very quickly. So
Indeed.
defense in depth, look at the zero trust model and think about that whatever is connecting is vulnerable, it is a risk to you.
No, I agree because that's exactly what my next question was. And Vinita, bringing you into this now. Therefore, how do you see the concepts around endpoint security also converging with the concepts of the future of trust? Because the future of trust is a very expansive concept and perhaps not even a framework yet. In your view, how do you see that? And how do you think that should be embedded within the conscious mind of the organization as and when it is being planned?
So I think one of any critical element, I think zero trust as a framework has been talked across the industry for quite some time. And it's not that it is something which is new. There have been pieces around it which was being touched upon in the past as well. But I think from a organization perspective, you have to break this into silos, right?
Okay.
And where the framework has talked about the users, it talked about the workloads, it talks about the kind of data that are getting transmitted in and out of your organization. Is talk about the kind of infrastructure that the organization may have. So it's all have to be broken down into pieces first. Now, once you have broken down into pieces, you have to have a governance or a policy or a framework in place, right? So once you have defined that, you have to say that, okay, my systems are going to only get connected through these set of users, right? Now, these set of users will have to be identified by these set of mechanisms. Now, if in case you have an application which is very, very critical in nature,
Oh, oh,
and you think that from an organization standpoint, it has to be controlled by only, let's say, few number of employees,
mm,
I think you have to say that, okay, my general uh, username and password is not going to work. You have to introduce concepts like of multi-factor authentication. And not only that, you may also have to include concepts of VPN, which are only been allowed to be connected to that particular machines and nothing else across the organization. Similarly, you have to start breaking down from a user's point of view, managing the privilege access management, the identity and access management related aspects which are there, which are very, very critical from a organization per se. I think all of those have to be started to be looked into that detail. So again, there is not a silver bullet that you'll fire a gun and you'll is getting going to get done in one go. You have to take a piece by piece meal approach. Start focusing on identifying the users first, followed by the workload, by the net data that you're connecting, the network that you're connecting, you managing your traffic flow across the organizations. All of those have to be taken into consideration while you are managing some of these pieces very, very close to your heart.
No, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Therefore, which is why, Amrish, it begs then the most logical question next is when you look at industry and when you look at the OEMs and infrastructure builders and providers, what are the kind of solutions that you are looking to forward to in the coming months, if not the coming years, that will truly help you put together to place exactly what all of you just spoke about, the concept of zero trust, governance, and various other facets.
Yeah, so as we were talking about, there is no silver bullet, right? So what I keep talking about is we as a CISO must think about the zero trust model is a long-term objective, right? And we must think about what we are doing today, how it is going to help me to achieve the overall objective of zero trust. Okay. So take an example of today we have the VPN, right? People have deployed VPN. If you talk about VPN, a lot of VPNs today they are providing something like called posture assessment. Okay, so if you know that this is a device which is requesting for the VPN, and normally what we do a user authentication, right? User is username password, and then we go beyond the second factor authentication.
Indeed.
What about the device which becomes a part of your network? We're not doing posture assessment. That is the one element, right? So one is the zero trust model also talks about that basically three things, right? One is you're talking about a user. Who is the user who is coming, who is requesting for certain access? What is the posture of the device at that point of time? Based on that, your intelligence machine, whatever the zero trust model you're going to build upon, is taking a decision on the fly, whether he has to be given access, whatever the access he had, or access has to be trimmed down, it can be elevated, extra or not. First thing. Second thing, which is the one of the major concern today is how to manage the privileged users. Okay.
Yes,
and
yes.
and privileged user, see all ransomware attack you see, right? They have been the malware existing in the network, they are looking for certain privileged credentials because they want to expand their presence in that network, and that's just a boom, right? They cannot do it without having a very elevated privilege. Okay, their effect will be very minimal. Take example of current investigation which is going on in Delhi, right?
Yeah.
It's the entire network is down, people are struggling, etc. So how to manage the privileged users? The technological control, procedural control, and awareness to the privileged users that you are holding the accountability of that privilege account, right? The, the third element is the whole ecosystem of people need to think about the security by design, defense in depth. And look at your basics. I keep talking about people, process, and technology. If they are more complementing each other, the more success we will have. Okay. Only the technology is not going to solve the problem of security.
Indeed.
The processes, the skills, the people awareness, everything going to play together in the journey, a successful journey of the cybersecurity.
No, I quite agree. And I find this fascinating because I think awareness certainly is something that's built up over at least the last 2.5, 3 years.
Yes.
But when bringing you into this conversation that Ambrish just articulated, a lot of this is a lot of work. And it's all obviously very forward looking. It is more futuristic in its nature. But at the same time, as a CISO, as an IT professional, how do you balance managing it today while simultaneously evolving it for the future?
I think that's the biggest challenge, Arjun, today.
Mayhem, isn't it?
It is that you you have to think 5 years ahead now because the threat landscape is evolving. The threat actors are changing their set of behaviors.
Absolutely.
They are evolving in terms of their pattern, right? What technology or exploits that they were using uh, 3 months back probably is not the same set of technology or the method that they are using today, right? So they are rapidly, and they have more vital access to some of these technologies because of their presence in the dark web, and you have to actually be at a pace. So I think I was having this conversation lately with some of my peers in the industry, and that is where some of them actually came back that the way some of these pieces are evolving, you don't have to focus on the set of IOCs that are coming from the land threat landscape, but primarily focus more on the strategic landscape as to how things are evolving and how it is going to impact you as an organization in the next 3 4 months. And you cannot today think about a year in advance, right?
Indeed.
You have to take baby steps to think about how you will protect your infrastructure over the next 3 to 4 months. And once you have been able to secure and achieve that goal, then you should think about how you will evolve for next 3 4 months. I think that's the kind of journey today. You cannot, and I have been talking to some of these CISOs in the industry. They say, "Oh, we have a roadmap which is we are going to put into place 3 to 5 years, and that is how." Gone are those days. Gone are those days. You have to now be future looking from a 3 4 months perspective. Manage what is there in your hand today with this set of resources and how you are going to overcome some of those challenge for next 3 to 4 months. Then plan okay how you are going to structure some of those pieces. Obviously, I think some of the recent incidents obviously set the example itself that if in case you don't have the basic set of hygiene control in your organization, obviously you are not uh, presenting yourself, but you are actually inviting yourself to some
Yeah.
of these
Yes.
threats. Now, even after hearing and learning about these set of incidents that are happening across the industry, and every organization across different environments are getting impacted, you could be a target any day. So you have to start building your defense control. Uh, First, obviously, as rightly pointed out by Amrish, that people, process, and technology all plays a vital role. If your people are good enough, if your created a set of awareness program for your people across your organization, at least you yourself is giving a 30% defense from your
Yes.
organization, right? Because if they are not clicking on any of the links, okay, if they are not falling prey to some of these phishing attempts that have been sent, obviously, uh, I'll tell you a very practical example, and I keep laughing about it in my organization that we have a kind of a rolling cycle where we really generally send out these phishing awareness emails to people, okay? And if in case you have got three phishing email that if you failed, you'll get a kind of a warning. And that what I received very recently, okay, because I was on the fly and then probably clicked on one of them, which resulted in those disciplinary actions. So I kept on laughing with the kids there that, okay, see, it's the phishing emails are becoming so important in today's life that one single step, one single step, just one mistake can land with the entire organization into problem.
Absolutely.
And I think that's what we have to focus, that how we are able to make our people aware about some of those pieces. uh, Again, awareness could not be very generic to one individual, but it has to be now planned across the organization, across different vertical, different team, different departments. So if in case you have an HR organization, you have a management organization, you have a administrative organization, you have to plan the training and awareness program according to
Absolutely.
them. So I think that's the key to the success, that handle as you fly. Don't look for be very future ready. You may not be able to really do so. Think about what is going to happen next over the next 3 to 4 months, and just target and focus on protecting the organization over the next 3 4 months, and evolve as the things are evolving accordingly.
No, absolutely brilliantly said. And I see that I've got about 3.5 minutes on the clock. Amrish, a very, well, if you want to, if you were, a theosophical question. Cyber security, endpoint security, in a lot of ways is all about technology, whereas trust is all human in its nature. How do you see the convergence of humans and technology kind of forging together to create pretty much the resilient world that we all want to live in?
Yeah, so if you bring, like, see, you have to bring via awareness a sense of ownership. That is why we keep
Exactly.
talking about information security,
Absolutely.
everyone's responsibility. So when we see, we all are in different kind of business, right? Industry, right? You have to create your awareness program in such a way that you are able to impact each and every employee, each and every user of different kind, right? Like take example of manufacturing. I mean, somebody working blockchain and somebody working in the shop floor, right? He hardly works on exercise, somebody working on advanced technology. So how you tailor made how you are able to make that awareness program impactful, you're going to the shop floor rather than just making awareness program where you're sending a emailers, which is seen by maybe 20% of the people, right? So how to ensure that your reach is to the grassroots level, they are able to understand their responsibility, they understand that this is my data, I need to protect. If we are able to break that, that is the real win. But I think still I'm struggling because you have to build that culture, right? Whatever steps we do from the all perspective, you are educating management, you are educating at various levels. But if you are able to influence each and every user, and then start thinking about this is my data, this is my organization, I need to be cautious. And the one important element in awareness is bring that personal benefit to the user. If you're cyber aware, you are this is going to affect, it's going to positively impact you on a personal life, because people are getting frauds, right? A lot of frauds, OTP fraud, etc. It is going to help them personally. They can educate their own family. Parallelly, it is going to improve the overall organizational security posture. If you bring that element, you are able to crack that, probably we will have more success. But I think we are still miles away, and we have to keep knocking the door. Certainly, we'll have success.
As a CISO, do you sleep well?
Yes.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, I sleep well because you have to do well next day, and you have to keep thinking ahead. You have to do multitasking. That is the CISO's role.
And Vineet, you've been sleeping well lately?
Uh, I think we have been able to manage some of those pieces. So I think we have learned our lessons over a period of time
Yeah,
as an
that is important.
organization. And I think that has actually give us some kind of a breather for sure. As Ambrish talked about that, if in case you are prepared for today, you will be able to manage tomorrow. So if in case you are able to, to handle some of the pieces today, obviously that gives you some kind of a breather. And based on the lessons that you have learned over a period of time, that will help you in terms of really managing some of the pieces on the ground. Obviously, if you are not learning the lessons, if you are not imbibing it into your culture as an organization, if you are not learning and making sure that some of these aspects which are been levied or been adopted by the attackers are not been thrown to you as an organization, then obviously you'll land up into all kind of soups. But yes, if in case you are able to build that culture of trust, build that culture of transparency, objectivity, obviously you have all reasons to sleep properly.
No, no, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And well begun, as they say, is always half done. So, on that particular note, gentlemen, that's all we have time for in this particular segment. Ambarish, Vineet, as always, brilliantly delightful speaking to both of you. Supremely brilliant articulation of your very clarity based views. So, we are all privileged to have had you lend your perspective to this particular segment. Thank you so very much, Ambarish, for joining us. So Vineet, thank you once again for joining us.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thanks
Thank
a
you so
lot.
much. Thank you so much for inviting us.
Thank you.
Thank you
And to
so
the
much for inviting
audience,
me. Thank you.
that was I, Arjun Vishwanathan, in conversation with Ambarish and Vineet. Stay tuned and we'll be back with the next segment in just a moment.
Thank you very much, Vineet. Thank you, Ambrish and Arjun, for that enriching and engaging discussion. With that, ladies and gentlemen, it's now time for a fireside chat. And for this, I'd like to welcome Mr. Srihari Chagare, Systems Engineer for Dell Technologies, who's in a conversation with Mr. Arjun Vishwanathan, Chief Knowledge Officer, Strategy. Over to the both of you.
Hello and welcome back. I'm your host, Arjun Vishwanathan, and I am in continuation to what has promised to be a fascinating conversation till now, with our eminent panel of industry experts coming in as CIOs to talk about the whole concepts of endpoint security. And well, ladies and gentlemen, to really carry this conversation forward, I've got a subject matter expert with us today who's already been introduced to you. Srihari, welcome. It's a delight to have you with us and have you share your experiences.
Thank you so much, Arjun. Glad to be a part of this. Thank you very much.
Absolutely, I'm quite looking forward to the next this particular segment. So, Srihari, I'm going to put the time that we have to full use, and I'm going to directly come to you. We've just heard CIOs and CISOs in extensive measure talk about how the endpoint, despite its very evident vulnerabilities, is also perhaps a very critical asset in pretty much being the first line of defense.
Yep.
As a practitioner who's been in industry for as long as you have, what is your view on the evolving perspectives, themes, and operating models around endpoint security, such that it truly plays the role of the first line of defense?
Thanks for that, Arjun. See, security, endpoint security, it needs a new approach because of the recent pandemic and so on. Something that is very resilient, intelligent, and it has to be automated with security that is built in, right? So, this new approach to security, what it has done is it's made it very intrinsic and invisible and persuasive as well. So it's in the platforms that you already have that are very critical to foundation, and that makes it a very secure and a modern environment. It is end to end, and this will exist and extend everywhere your applications go, right from your endpoints to your infrastructure and to your cloud deployments as well.
No, that's actually very pertinent that you mentioned that, because you know what immediately popped into mind is, well, if the learnings of the last 2 years have lent us a certain level of perspective, it's also that with the evolving themes of the future of security or the future of trust, the future of work has also changed very dramatically. Now, with remote work now being more par for the course than an exception as it were earlier. Now, in that sense, Srihari, what is your view in, given that you have a brilliant view into industry from the perspective of Dell Technologies, is what is your view on how remote work is increasingly perhaps making the whole concept of endpoint security slightly more challenging? And how, in your guidance, would you advise an emerging generation of CISOs and IT security professionals on how to navigate this journey?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really valid question in terms of what is the current scenario. So, one thing what we've learned in over the last few months and years of the global pandemic as well is the threat landscape, right? This has been growing and evolving. Now, actually, everyone is trying to take advantage of, taking away data, and data is the new oil, right? So, in the industry, there's nothing more secure than not having data secured for all types of industries irrespective of the verticals, right?
Mhm.
So people are becoming smarter day by day in terms of capturing data, and the vulnerabilities caused in the workplace dynamic, because that has been changed in the last year and a half as well. Not all of them are working from home, I'm sorry, from the office, right? So they're working from home, working from cafes, working from airports. And it's not only one device that they're working on. So they'll have multiple devices at the same time. So to have security and to be as secure as possible across all devices is the prime motive of having an industry growing in the right direction. So, this end users who are working in more places with more devices, that increases risk. So supporting mobility, connectivity, these are critical to business and the workers as well. But the most important thing around it is security, and that is becoming very difficult and has to be treated at that most importance.
No, I couldn't agree with you more, because I think you made an interesting point there about the whole concept of, the workers. Now, increasingly, there's a growing realization, Srihari, that endpoint security predominantly and well, in general, has been a one key fits all kind of operating model all through the years that, well, we worked back in the day, as it were. but increasingly that with radically and dramatically changing profiles of workers and work itself, accountabilities, responsibilities, the kind of activities, is that the approach to endpoint security for information security professionals and CISOs has to be a more nuanced one. In that sense, what is your guidance on whether endpoint security should be approached more from the concept of the profile of work by itself or by the infrastructure by itself?
Yeah, I mean, this again is a very, very important point that we are discussing with all our customers, and this is being talked upon in a very aggressive way in because of the recent, issues, because of the recent change in workplace dynamics. We continually hear about three basic areas that are problematic for our customers, right? So one is the external threats. What this means is threats are growing at an alarming rate and more sophisticated as well. So they can lurk in an environment without being noticed. There's a study which says that the environment, if there is a threat that occurs, sometimes it will not be known for about 100 odd days, and that's becoming a problem. And imagine if the threat is already there and it is detected after about 100 days. Imagine the amount of data that can be lost during that particular time, right? That external threats is one of the most important thing. The second thing which we hear with our customers is the user behavior, right? The challenge is the end users are working and collaborating in more places, more devices, and sharing more information. So sometimes they will know it willingly share data, sometimes they will not know what data they've gone through, and without their knowledge that is being shared as well. The study says that about 41% of them will go around security because of all this, willingly and unwillingly as well, right? So this is becoming another very important point which is being of discussion now. The third most important thing is the limited security resources, right? Now if external threats and user behavior is not bad enough, there are not enough security professionals to fill knowledge based roles. So the security industry will need a lot more people who are working thoroughly about how the data is not going to get lost. And over the next 5 years we have a data that says that the unfilled security cyber security jobs is going to rise and it's going to rise by about 20%. So the
What
problem
the
is going to
appalling
get
situation the industry globally is at.
yeah.
I couldn't agree with you more, which is why I want to bring you in increasingly now from the concept of you spoke about you spoke about multiple data points. You spoke about the very sophisticated landscape by itself in terms of threat analysis. In that sense, Srihari, how is Dell Technologies co-innovating with industry to ensure that it does precisely what you were articulating, which is protect the data, which is existential in nature for any organization across the globe?
Yeah, so Arjun, Dell Technologies can help. Let me put that very clear across to
I
you.
think that's something that's fairly well established over the last 3 years for sure. But please do
Yeah.
carry on.
So we provide built-in security solutions that help and protect the endpoint ecosystem. So we have security that extends below the operating system and that is complemented with external security solutions for a comprehensive and modern protection. So Dell trusted devices. So that's some of the thing we kind of stress upon a lot, that provides a comprehensive approach to a portfolio of Dell technologies and endpoint security solutions that work together, like I mentioned, below the operating system and above the operating system as well. So below the operating system, if I can just touch upon it by for a moment or two,
Please do.
we have solutions such as Safe ID, Safe Screen, Safe BIOS, and above operating system we have our partners whom we work with VMware, SecureWorks, Absolute, and Netscope. So collectively, Dell's technologies collection of endpoint security solutions, these enable us to offer you the industry's most secure commercial PCs. And that's why we want to be, it's just not a sale which we were looking for. We want to be a trusted advisor. And that's what we are looking in terms of a partnership with all our customers.
Interesting. And I'd like to continue on this particular point because I do have a supplementary question of sorts.
Sure.
You spoke about collaborating with industry and ensuring the safest devices that are perhaps possible given the advancement of technology. But isn't or is it not also equally true, Srihari, that different industries, different organizations uh, operate in different sets of realities, and therefore their particular, specific, unique, very nuanced needs, challenges, and opportunities are very, very different from the same one key fits all kind of a model. In that sense, what is the consultative approach that you take with industry to identify, understand, acknowledge, and therefore provide solutions for each problem, as it were?
Yeah. So, you absolutely hit the nail on the head, which says, one solution will not fit all, right? So, what we do is we understand their ecosystem. What is it that they have, and what is it that they're looking to achieve in the near future, and then take some time for the next 3 months, 6 months, and 9 months. And we can provide customized solutions based on what they are really looking for, right? So irrespective of the vertical of the industry that the customers are in, we have solutions to provide irrespective of what they are looking for as well. So we would have a call with them, try and understand, what exactly is the current scenario, with their assets which they're using at the moment, what they're looking to achieve in the immediate future. Take some time off and say what is it that you're looking for in the next year or so. And that time, what we will do is we will provide them a customized solution and say this is where you would need to be triggered to get back on track if they're not already on it, and then get to a solution wherein the IT people and the users as well are not stressed, because they should not be worrying about security, and they should be worrying about their own work to improve their business, right? So to get to that level, we would provide customized solutions from Dell.
Interesting, because it also strikes me, and I think I speak on behalf of a wide percentage of this wonderful audience that's tuning in today with us, as also for industry and sectors by and large, which is that I think there's a broad understanding of what solutions providers such as Dell Technologies can offer, and the sophistication is obviously cannot be underscored enough. But there's also the balancing of fiscal prudence. Well, everybody is working with finite budgets. How at Dell Technologies do you help organizations, information security officers, navigate the arithmetic of making it fiscally prudent yet as comprehensive and robust as it should be?
What we do, Arjun, is that we kind of highlight what is important immediately for the users, right? So, like for example, let me just give you a small example. Now, when an attacker gains user credentials from an industry, they have broad access to the network through land and expand tactics. So, these traditional credential storage relies on the OS, and this what it does is this is an opportunity for us to side channel other theft tactics, right? So hardware based storage and processing offer better user credentials. What Dell does is we will give you a solution which says that, okay, we have an isolated chip for better protection of end user credentials. This is just one of the very, very small examples, and one of the most important things which are going wrong in the current scenario as well. So we tell them that we can do this to clear out this issue which you have immediately. We will give, actually we have partnered with our team called SecureWorks and MDR, which is a services wherein their IT team can connect with our security professionals. We monitor them 24 bar 7. We tell them that this is how you can tackle these threats. We say that, okay, you want to have an incident management response, we have that as well. You want to have a yearly based support from our partners, we can offer that as well. So everything in Dell, like the hardware, is customizable, and that makes it very flexible for the users as well. It is not always hardware agnostic. If they have multi vendors in their organization, still we are offering to help them out and say, don't worry, Dell is there for you. So that makes it very easy for the customers as well. They will know, okay, We do not have to go behind only multiple vendors, and we can stick to Dell, which partners with a lot of vendors and gives us the best solution. That's how we tackle it as a global
And
player.
Srihari, how would you respond to a question that is fairly evident and up there, which is that a lot of organizations today also work with infrastructure and platforms that are fairly legacy in nature. And I don't say that in any offensive manner.
Yeah.
It is about 3.5, 4 years old, which can't just be plugged out
Yeah.
and shown the door. In that sense, how does Dell Technologies' endpoint security premise and the program by itself seamlessly fit in so that it kind of works across different kinds of realities?
So, Arjun, the best part about our security solutions is I want to highlight this, and I just want to repeat it. The best part is, we are not going to try and remove your current, whatever setup it is. What we'll try and do is we'll try and integrate it with the latest solutions. That time, what you can do is you already know you have an in-house or a legacy application which you're working on. We will tie it up with our latest softwares, and that helps you manage it with a single console. You do not have to have multiple consoles as well for managing multiple applications. We try and make it as simple as we'll give you one console, merge everything in one console, and your IT admin or your security in charge officers will be able to access everything out of a single console. We have technologies which can merge them. I'm sure it will take maybe some of the legacy applications might take a little more time to understand and integrate, but we have that capability. So a lot of our users are ready to integrate multiple applications into a single one, which makes it a better solution for the user. And anyone who's accessing a system would not want to open 10 different windows to access 10 different
Absolutely not.
solutions. So that becomes very easy for the user as well, Arjun. So that we can do from there.
Very interesting. But this is increasingly, like I promised, turning out to be a fascinating conversation, but I do have a view on the clock, Srihari.
Yeah.
Therefore, my question to you, pretty much to kind of distill this wonderful dialogue that we've had is uh, your ability, Dell Technologies' ability to serve its customers, industry by and large, globally as well as in India, also requires you to, well, innovate at a fairly furious pace.
Yep.
Because, well, the other reality of the threat landscape is equally turning as appalling as it can be. Now, in that sense, what can industry expect from Dell Technologies in the coming months, if not the years, that'll help them stay perhaps on course with how everything else is changing, if not necessarily be a step forward in the background of converging endpoint security with the concepts of the future of trust?
Arjun, thanks for this question actually. So because of the fact that this is mostly discussed with all our customers at this point, we've moved past the traditional antiviruses and more traditional approaches to customers, right? What we've done is already moved on to the next generation versions of it. How that is different is this works on AI and ML, and there's no better word, or there's no word that is heard more in the industry at the moment than AI and ML.
True.
So what we are doing is we understand the telemetry of how these threats occur, and it is not like I told you at the beginning of our chat. It's not one threat which is there and that is going on forever. Every day, every moment, the threats are actually getting sophisticated, getting tougher to analyze, and the people who are doing it are getting smarter by the day, right?
Absolutely.
So we understand the behavioral patterns of how this works. It's not a very signature pattern wherein it says, okay, this is how this one is, and we will protect only that particular threat. So the moment the behavior is detected and analyzed, there's a database which has a telemetry, and it is done on a daily basis or every hourly basis. It keeps gathering a lot of information, and it keeps evolving in terms of protecting that as well. So what we would want to tell our customers is we are not sticking into the traditional way. We've already moved past that, and the way we understand the behavioral patterns, that helps us to be ahead of the industry and gives you a much faster and a much aggressive way of saying, okay, we've already identified this could be a threat. Would you want to correct it? So we leave it to them, right? So that helps the IT people to understand, oh, there could be a threat. We will take the next call. Some of them, the policies might be allowed by the users, but some of them might be a really big threat for the industry as well, right? So we give that option to them, and they will take the next call. So we've already been aware, and we already want to make sure that all our users are being safe, not now, but 6 months, 12 months, anything ahead. Yeah.
No, I couldn't agree with you more, Sri. And like I said, this has been a fascinating conversation. And I'm very, very grateful to you for taking out the time to share such invaluable perspectives and views around the whole concept of endpoint security. But that, unfortunately, is all that we have time for in this particular segment. Uh, Very delighted to have had you with us. Thank you so very much.
Thank you very much for having me, Arjun, and thanks for this session. It was lovely.
Absolutely. And ladies and gentlemen, that's pretty much for it from here. For now, stay tuned. We'll be back in just a second.
Thank you very much, Sri Hari and Arjun, for taking us to an amazingly insightful session. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we've come to an end of today's webinar on endpoint security, navigating a future beyond trust. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll just request for a few moments of your time to fill in the feedback form. Your feedback is invaluable to us. Please do feel free to mention any suggestions or recommendations that you have, as this will help us improve the content, structure, and delivery of our conferences. I also thank you once again on behalf of Dell Technologies, Intel, Microsoft, and Strategy for joining us and spending your valuable time. We look forward to welcoming you at our forthcoming conferences. Until then, stay safe, stay healthy, and do enjoy the rest of your day.